time of tradition. There were three filmmakers with nothing in common. They thought they had it all figured out. They don't just follow the movies, they make them. Alexander Pavlak, Mario Silvas, and Jamal Alexander are the makers on film.
Hi, I'm Mario. I just found out that chinchillas are incredibly endangered at this point in time. Go.
I'm Jamal. I'm doing this podcast because it's a Sunday night and I'm bored.
And I'm Alexander Pavlak, and I apparently just hang out with guys who like to make fun of me.
Who's making fun of you?
Well, you two are trying, but failing miserably at it.
I never said I try. I do.
That's just I just thought that's how we talked.
Way to go there, Jedi Mario. So, Bruce Jenner.
What the fuck, right?
I'm
Like I don't follow any of that stuff, but
I'm already over it.
like well you should have had an issue with it before, but I don't follow any of like the Kardashian stuff, but what the fuck? Wasn't he like an Olympian?
Yeah, he was a gold medal decathlon for like one of the 80s Olympics. And he
It was like 84 or something like that.
Something like that. And now all of a sudden he's looking to have a sex change, and I'm like, so who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, I want to hear the story about the guy who works at like Hobby Lobby or Chick-fil-A who wants to have a sex change. That's the inspirational story, not the rich guy who has a loving family who supports him no matter what they do and happens to have a big following in the gay community. Ooh, what controversy that is.
Oh, actually, we have an employee like that at Walmart right now, and yeah, his life sucks from what I hear, or her life.
Yeah, and that's just working at Walmart.
Yeah, that's just working at Walmart. Like I heard, like her grandparents, who she relied heavily on, like disowned her and stuff. It's a tough thing to go through.
Oh, I can imagine. Has she just recently come out as wanting to be a woman, or is this like a long, drawn-out thing?
So she used to work in the same department with me, and I knew the kid back when it was him, and for whatever reason he goes on this vacation for 11 days, comes back and he's wearing this scarf and he's got these bracelets on, and I'm like going, so I figured he's gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I finally kind of like asked him about the scarf though, because it's a little weird to be wearing it over your uniform, and he kind of just points it and goes, "I'm trans," and there's that deer in headlights moment for me where I kind of just like didn't know what to say.
Usually it's like, well, I'm glad you figured it out.
No, I eventually ended up. I think I did say that I did say that back then. Like, I support you, but it was I knew her back when she was him, and this came out of the blue.
Yeah.
So it was a little weird for a bunch of people. Like, you've known this person for years, and it was always him.
See, that's the person Diane Sawyer should be interviewing.
And like, we're all fairly supportive, even though she's a terrible coworker. But we're all fairly supportive.
Well, that's not because they're transgender. That's just because she's a bad employee.
Yeah, but the terrible things are some of the things that other people have been saying. Like, customers would come in and go, like, "We know who that is. Why do you allow that?" I'm like, "It's fucking 2015. Get over it." Hey, can you actually hear the movie I'm playing right now?
No, I can't.
Okay, so I'm listening I'm watching Laser Mission right now.
How far into it are you?
I'm at where the fuck are they? Yes. Where the fuck are they? Is this supposed to be Africa?
I think so. Though I will admit that it sounds in the very beginning like they're in Cuba, and then they drive to some place, and it's like you can't drive to any place in Cuba other than Cuba.
Nobody in Africa speaks Spanish.
There's that too. That's why I think it's supposed to be Cuba.
I have no idea where they are right now.
Because it's actually filmed in Africa, in Germany, and I forget where the other place is. Where the first place they start out is.
Right now, I'm at the zoo park.
Oh, you're early into the film.
I'm not gonna lie. I almost quit right after the guillotine.
Oh god, dude, I made it 8 minutes in. Stopped.
Seriously?
I'm at 22:56, and I broke it up into two chunks. I painfully went through Ernest Borgnine and his best, whatever the hell accent that was.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
It's supposed to be German, I think.
I thought it was South African.
No. What was it? That one fucking like that Australian dude who's like the hunter or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, Craven?
Yeah, whatever. Fucking fuckface.
I'm not entirely sure who this movie was made for.
It was made for Alex.
This is true. This is true.
Apparently, he's the only one out of us that enjoyed it.
He's the only one of us that got through more than 22 minutes of it.
Yes, I did get through more than 22 minutes, and I never said I enjoyed it. I told you it was one of the worst movies ever made. I told you it was worse than Showgirls.
As a huge fan of Bruce Lee, it kind of hurt my soul a little to see his offspring in that piece of shit.
Well, the movie itself was really never meant for wide release. It was a movie that they kind of made to see if Brandon Lee could be in a movie.
And that's no.
We're going to give you like $1 million, go make a film, see if this guy, can do it, or if he's going to have a meltdown, or if, he's going to not want to be in movies anymore.
Yeah, that was not a great movie to actually. I would put that on any audition reel. That was pure shit. All 23 minutes that I sat in front of it.
See, you didn't get to any of the quote unquote good parts, like him sitting in the room of American flags.
I got to that part.
Oh, you did with the bald guy and the other guy.
Yes, and it was there was no dialogue, just a series of cliched lines.
Really cliched lines coming from the guy who directed a movie that was called
Cliche. Yeah, but where do you think I got those ideas from stupid ass movies like that?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's straight up your alley.
Well, there was one really good line in the whole movie that I liked, and you probably would have seen it in the first 9 minutes. They ask him if he works for America, and he says, "I don't work for America. I work for money."
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was the best line, and after that, it does really go downhill from there.
Shocking.
Yeah.
The only line that I can remember from it was the terrible Mexican accent that the clearly American guy was using when he says, "Ha ha, tomorrow your head come off, ha ha."
Well, didn't he get punched through a wall after that?
Yeah, he got punched in the. I will admit, fairly decent action scenes, set to very, very terrible, sets, locales, but passable action scenes.
Barely passable because the editing was horrible in that. They would start an action scene and they would never write an end to it, so they would just cut to him later on, doing something else.
Yeah. You're talking about the guillotine.
Yeah. The guillotine comes out, and all of a sudden the whole action sequence is done. Like a better movie would have not shown the decapitation, but would have showed the body shaking there in the background as he goes and kicks the ass of more guy.
Here's my main statement about this movie. Some movies are bad and are so bad they're good. Sharknado, Super Octopus versus whatever. Things things you see on sci-fi. Some movies are made not with the intention of being bad, like the first ones I mentioned. They're just bad.
Yeah.
Like, people try very hard, very seriously to make a movie, and it just turns out terrible.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies.
Yeah. No, this definitely is one of those movies. And the thing that got me, and I noticed it this time around, I've seen this movie a couple of times, and this time around I noticed that the lead female character is dressed like Miss Piggy.
How the fuck would you notice something like that?
It's if you've ever watched the Muppet Show, Miss Piggy is usually in kind of a flowy dress. She has the curly blonde hair and usually like white heels or something. And that's exactly how this woman was dressed. She had the flowing curly blonde lock. She had the flowy dress, and she had the white heels on. And that was one of two outfits that she had throughout the whole movie. And I'm just watching this, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, that's the outfit Miss Piggy wears.
Man, you have strange connections in your little brain.
I
I was
do.
about to say, what the hell goes on up there when you're just quiet? What goes up there?
I look at all aspects of a movie. I look at,
Where the hell would you pull the Muppets from? Like when you were watching Laser Mission, where the hell would you get that from?
I like the Muppet Show.
All right. I will admit, but the Muppets was good.
The first Muppet movie was amazing. The second one was pretty good. And here's another Miss Piggy tie-in to a movie. Did you
Oh
ever
my god.
see Resident Evil 2?
No.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one scene where that stupid character who's not in any of the video games comes crashing through the church window on a motorcycle?
Yes.
Yeah, Miss Piggy did that in the second Muppet movie.
What the hell?
There's a second Muppet. Honestly, I'm not caught up on my Muppet movies.
Yeah, there's like
I-
20 different Muppet movies, but Disney bought them out after what's his face, Jim Henson died. So after Jim Henson dies, they're not as good, but like the first 2 or 3 are pretty decent.
Huh.
I think one of them is The Muppets Take Manhattan, which is also the name of one of the Friday the 13th movies, Jason Takes Manhattan, so that kind of trips me out a little bit. See, you guys never thought about how the Muppets influence modern cinema, have you?
I
Apparently.
like how you're still defending this point.
I'm just just that silence broken in by you at the end. Just oh my god.
No, he's really trying to convince us that this is an okay thing for him to do.
I'm not
No.
trying to convince you.
I'm aware, and I like the Muppets. I saw them when I was a kid, and they're like American treasures, I guess. But I haven't kept up with them over the years, and I certainly don't factor them into my critiques of movies while I'm watching them.
Maybe you should. It'd make your critiques a lot more interesting.
Critique
Got you there.
Interstellar. Critique that to the Muppets.
Pigs in Space, duh.
What the fuck?
Wasn't there an actual Pigs in Space though?
There was.
The Muppet Show did Pigs in Space all the time.
Yeah.
It was Miss Piggy, an old guy who was their science officer, and then the young stupid captain who was supposed to be Kirk.
Right.
And they flew around in a giant piggy bank, basically.
Okay, I got one for you. The English Patient.
Pigs in Space.
I was going to say any plot point that deals with Kermit and Miss Piggy, because for some reason a frog can fuck a pig and it's not weird.
Oh, but when I do it, then it's weird.
All right, the guy who directed this movie was a stunt person for The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That's his career highlight?
Oh, he did a lot of stunt coordination for Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Okay, I'll give him that. He's a really good stunt coordinator.
Star Trek The Undiscovered Country. Oh, yeah, you get in with the Star Trek people.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You're gold.
usually that would garner some kind of goodwill from me, but that movie does not.
Okay, that's what he stunted. Let's see. He directed 16 movies.
What the fuck?
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah, here comes the good part.
Sharknado.
Actually, I worked with those guys.
You work with the Sharknado people?
Yeah. They're called Asylum Films.
Asylum Films. Yeah, they do tons of stuff. I know of them, yeah.
The Mockbuster people, yeah.
Yeah.
They make
Yeah.
fun of all that stuff.
Anything that comes out that's like a hit at theaters, they come out with something else.
There's a TV show called Medal of Honor. He directed a bunch of episodes there. And I think this is probably going to be the high point of his career. How to Become a Hollywood Stuntman video documentary.
Well, you know, because that's been on top of my list of ever trying to figure out.
Well, you know, he obviously knows his stuff. He's been in some Charlie Sheen Stunt Spectacular.
Nice.
What the fuck?
Nice.
Winning.
You know, it was really funny. I was listening to this comedian the other day, and he was saying, like, Charlie Sheen is the only person, like the only white dude, who can get away with saying the word nigger.
I would
Yeah,
disagree.
Well, when he was married to, what was it, Denise Richards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, one night he just called her, and well, of course, Charlie Sheen, so like the whole anger issues, but just straight up called her a nigger. Like, I hope you don't get raped by. I hope you don't get like beaten up by. No, just straight up called her a nigger. He's like, look at here, you nigger, and just yelled at her.
Is she like half black or something? And he was really
No, there is
Okay.
no black in her whatsoever.
Not yet.
Alex knows first. No, I think he just straight up called her.
But that doesn't make any sense, though. Why would someone like Denise Richards take offense to that?
I don't think she took offense to it. I just think it's amazing that Charlie Sheen was able to just straight up call her that. Like, nothing else. Just straight up. That's it.
I would not put that past Charlie Sheen at this point.
Right.
Like, you could say something terrible and lewd and unseemly happened between him and a donkey, and I would believe it.
You alright over there, Mario?
Yeah, I lost one of my cables.
Is it the cable gremlins?
Yeah, right next to the gnomes. What are they? The underpants goblins?
The underwear gnomes?
Yeah, the underwear gnomes.
Step 1, get the underwear. Step 2, something. Step 3, profit. What do you think has been the best video game movie though thus far?
I can pick a single one. Honestly, they all suck. Like
House of the Dead.
Oh, I was gonna say House of the Dead, you thieving son of a bitch.
Fuck you. That movie was amazing.
That was not amazing.
See, that's how little I know about it. I'm Googling it right now. House of the Dead.
Well, I guess technically speaking, it was fucking hilarious. Because at one point in time, I mean, they've done analysis on that movie all over YouTube. And one of the funniest ones that I ever saw was pointing out every little thing that they've done incorrectly with that movie, including using actual game clips from the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, when that movie was made. So they're using 16-bit clips of the movie, or of the video game, spliced into the movie.
Yeah, as like bumpers or something.
Yeah. No, they were inserts. Those were the zombies being killed, was the video game footage. And at another point in time, you have all the characters lined up, in a single, or in a shoulder to shoulder, firing on the zombies, and the dolly pulls back, and you see the fucking dolly tracks. And I'm not talking like 4 or 5 inches. I'm speaking like 7 feet of dolly track.
Okay, without looking at your computers, without Googling this, give me your rough estimate of what the Rotten Tomatoes on that is.
Is a higher percentage bad or lower percentage bad?
Lower percentage
bad. Just without looking at your computers, guess what that movie is.
12%.
I was going to say about 12, 13%, yeah.
4.
Fucking Christ.
Based off of 54 reviews, it only has a 4%.
Okay.
Christ.
It is not a good movie. It is one of those movies that's so bad, it's good, it's funny. And
it's ranked on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 41st on their 100 worst reviewed films.
What's the number 1?
I don't know. Now I have to look that up. Why do you have to say that out loud? I gotta look. Now I gotta look it up.
My favorite part of House of the Dead is the Asian girl in the Star Spangled unitard named Liberty.
Oh my god, that was so fucking funny. I couldn't believe it actually just went so on the nose with that one.
I know, right?
Just, alright, Asian chick. Do we want to go Asian-y? Nah. Let's go redneck with it, guys. What's more American than liberty? And the producer was just like, fucking genius, guys. Fucking genius.
Apparently, there's a House of the Dead 2 that came out in 2005.
Yes, there is, and I want to watch it. I legitimately lost a cable.
Okay. Is this an important cable you need for today's show?
Well, it's the one that allows you guys to hear me better.
So it's not important for today's show.
I will hang up right now.
After all the nice things people were saying about you today.
Have you guys seen the picture of the Joker?
Oh, the Jared Leto, dude! I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. Give me a second. Well, I was thinking about talking about Superman versus Batman anyway.
Okay.
I haven't seen that trailer yet. Should I watch that real quick?
Watch it real quick. I was a little disappointed because I thought Superman v Batman was going to be a court drama. I don't know where this beating people up thing came from. Is this a real picture of him with all the tattoos and stuff?
Yep.
Or is this like a computer generated?
I think it's one of those. Or I think it's a mock-up of what it would look like if Jared Leto, because apparently he is going to play Joker.
Yeah, in the Suicide Squad that
Yeah,
we knew for
and I
quite some
think
time.
this is just a mock-up of what he's going to look like as that character.
I think this is full blown it. I think this is the actual thing.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's from David Ayer.
I gotta say, I love the tattoos.
Tattoos are a nice touch. Not sure about the cap teeth. I will admit, I'm missing the scars from the Heath Ledger Joker a little bit, because they always kind of explained why the Joker why his motif, I guess.
His smile and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, clowns are creepy to begin with, and he never really. I guess he does allude to the fact that his name is Joker because he gives the Joker card as his calling card, but he's just creepy. He's just supposed to be that kind of guy. It's like, oh, everybody's afraid of clowns, so I'm just going to dress up like a clown today.
That works, I guess.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw a couple of images for Leto as the Joker. There's a couple leaked images. He does have the scars, but they're really small.
Around the mouth?
Yeah.
They really didn't need to do that.
No, but it looks more realistic. No. It looks more realistic than what what's his face had.
Heath Ledger?
Ledger, thank you. It looks more realistic than what he had, because it looks like it was just, I don't know, maybe half an inch, and they're just as wide as his mouth, and they taper off into a very tip. So they look really good.
I'm digging the look so far.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It is pretty impressive. I'll give you that. And it's very different than what we just saw with the Dark Knight. So I like that.
I have a very distinct feeling this movie in itself is going to be very different from any comic book movie we've seen, because David Ayers, he's like a like a man's movie director. Like, he directs action movies, and he did Fury, he did End of Watch. I mean, things with guns, explosions, and like all kinds of violence and shit. And he's taking over a comic book movie. I'm interested to see how this turns out.
I think what he's going to do is he's going to do it kind of like Nolan did it, where he's going to do it ultra real, but he's going to do it very raw. It's not going to be that kind of polish that what's his face had when he did The Dark Knight.
A sort of opera type, epicness to the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, it's going to be like as if it were like a reality show or a documentary.
A lot of shaky cams involved.
I could see him doing that. I hope he doesn't, but I can see him doing that.
Who's directing it?
David Ayers.
David Ayers.
Paul just said he did End of Watch, and what was the other one?
Fury, Street Kings.
I loved Fury. Fury was amazing.
Sabotage.
Actually, it's not saying anybody is lined up for director right now.
For Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
No, it's been on for a while now. David Ayers is the guy.
Is it? Because it's not on. Oh, it's not on any page that I'm looking at right now.
You're obviously looking at the wrong pages.
Oh, sorry, they moved it.
Okay, so what did you think of the Superman v Batman trailer?
I do want to see it, but I have no high hopes for it.
I told this to Alex the other week. I've taken a completely defeatist approach to my favorite superheroes. I'll take what I can get at this point. My main criticism about Zack Snyder, that trailer, and that franchise in general is that if they try to spin any of the other heroes off, all the movies have to some degree look like it's a Zack Snyder film. He has a very distinctive look to his films, and if you took, for instance, if you spun off Wonder Woman or Aquaman into their own film, and you did it like a la Marvel film, it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't seem right. It would look like it was from a different franchise altogether.
I think the plan is to do Wonder Woman and Aquaman as their own separate films, and I think what's going to happen, it's going to, you've seen like the four CSIs, right? Las Vegas, Miami, New York, and Cyber.
Yeah.
Each one, even though it's part of the same franchise, has a different look, usually a different color scheme. I think that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to let other directors who have similar styles as Zack Snyder take the helms of these movies, but when they all come together, it's going to be Zack Snyder. I mean, look at Iron Man, look at Thor, look at the Hulk, and then they all come together under Joss Whedon. And Whedon does an amazing job, but Whedon's Captain America is completely different than the Winter Soldier Captain America. And a lot of it is the costume, but a lot of it, or some of it, is the character and the motivation for the character.
Oh, yeah, because Whedon could actually give off a character. That's why. He can actually pull something out of people to give him to actually have them a good, or to get them a good character to come across. Whereas, what's his face? It was more about nothing. It was all Flash. That's all it was.
Winter Soldier?
Yeah, Winter Soldier. Because I saw that one, or not Winter, the first one. I'm sorry.
First Avenger.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, neither did I. It was flashy. It was kind of fun, but
it was really slow. Like they could have cut out a lot of his doing the USO stuff.
Yeah.
That movie looks like it belongs with like, let's say, the Transformers franchise or Battleship or something like that, where it's really sort of steering into the extraordinary and the abnormal and the campy even. It's the one movie I think doesn't belong with the rest of the Marvel movies. And as far as all those other movies coming together under Joss Whedon, at least aesthetically and color schemes and shooting locales, they all look like they belong in the same place. You can't do the same for a Zack Snyder film. There has to be a level of kind of like darkness and grittiness to something that comes out of the mind of Zack Snyder, and the spin-off should reflect that to some degree. Otherwise, they won't look like they belong together.
Yes.
Unless they're trying to go for a completely different look on purpose to get away from the to distract you away from the fact that it's the same concept all over again, but it's carried out differently, and it's going to be carried out differently. So that's the only thing I could think of.
If you look at the first Superman movie compared to how this trailer looks kind of like what's his face who did the first Batman movie?
Tim Burton.
It kind of looks like a Tim Burton-esque version of Batman. So Zack Snyder is going in a much darker way for this movie that's kind of contrary to the last movie he did with the same character. So he's going to make it look different, so when other people make theirs look different, it won't be so odd.
Yeah. Honestly, which I think what needs to happen is to make it darker.
I agree, only in the sense that DC really, really, really needs to just look at everything that Marvel is doing and say, we need to do that, but as different and as our own way as possible. Otherwise, if they did the exact same thing that Marvel's doing, I don't think it would catch on the same way.
Oh, no, they totally need to do something completely different, but at the same time, I hate to say it like this too, but the producing executives and the people in charge, people with the money, see that there is a pattern, and that pattern is this works, and that thing is to make these super campy, not super campy, but to make these campy superhero movies because they're going to sell. That's all they're concerned about. So when the director and the producer and the writer get in there, because I'm pretty sure it is vastly different from what the initial script starts out as. So when they get a hold of it, they rip it apart and they say, this isn't going to work because there's no proof that it's going to sell. So they change it, and they make it into something that, yes, is going to be kind of fun to watch, and we're going to watch it regardless. I mean, right. Whether that means we see it in the theater, whether that means we download it, but we're going to watch that movie because A, it's a superhero movie, we all grew up with or with reading the comics, reading. That was our life when we were younger.
Yeah.
So they're tapping the market between what 14-year-old or yeah, the male demographic for all movies, I should say, are 13-year-old males and up. Roughly to about 23, 24. That's their demographic.
I've honestly lost faith in like the WB executives just
Good.
after one film, really. I
Which
mean,
one?
at least after Man of Steel, they just took that
Oh,
one their first movie of their shared universe to kind of like, you know, you lose me as a believer. I mean, maybe it's because it was Marvel started out as its own company first, and they emphasized the products that they'd already established, the characters that they'd already written, and wanted to see that as much of that as possible on screen.
right.
Whereas Warner's has said, well, what makes a good movie? Not what's great about this character or what's a story from these books that we can use. They just go, what makes a great movie, and decided to go from there. And
And that's
I
exactly what it is. No, I completely agree with you.
I'm hoping that they learned a lot from the Dark Knight series. That when Burton did Batman and he did the first two, those were really impressive. Those were nice.
yeah.
Those were mostly everything Batman should have been. And then Warner Brothers was like, we need to make this more kid friendly. We need to sell toys. We need, younger butts in the seat. So
Yeah.
they, changed out directors and we have Batman Forever and then Batman and Robin, which completely destroyed the entire series. And for the longest time, because of that, DC has been licking their wounds. So now all of a sudden this guy comes by, he does this really ultra realistic version of Batman that is so not a kid's movie. And he shows Warner Brothers that you can make millions of dollars, billions of dollars on something that's realistic, that's impressive. And now all of a sudden they're going through their lineage again. And thankfully they only did one Green Lantern movie because
Jesus Christ.
that one was horrible. And I hope they learned their lesson that, we need to do something that's smarter because our audience isn't going to put up with this crap that we've been giving them anymore. So, and what is really ironic is that in the comic book world, the Avengers came about because of the Justice League. And in the movie world, the Justice League is finding a place for themselves because of the Avengers, because they were able to, and they're going to do it just the opposite of how the Avengers did it. Instead of doing separate movies and then having everybody come together, kind of like how the comic books had separate characters and they all came together,
Yeah.
they're going to do all the characters in one movie and then branch them all out to their own franchise, which is either way, I like the Marvel version better. I had that idea at one point of that it would be cool to take the characters, show us what they can do, and then have them come together and top everything that's been done so far.
Which I think is smart if they were to do something like that.
Uh,
I don't know where it's going to go at this point. Because, normally you can see patterns and how they're going to do it. I can't find a friggin' pattern anymore. It's so out in the open that you're just like, okay, it's either going to be really good or it's going to be terrible, and they're going to suffer for it really badly. That's it.
If they let Zack Snyder produce them all, then he might have in his head what the pattern should be. And whether everybody else knows it or not, maybe that's a
See,
good thing they've been
should and
inventing.
does are two completely different things.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that. But if they let him do that, if they let him produce it, then maybe there will be some continuity to it. If they have other people produce it, if they just give him Superman and the Justice League and that's it, then we might be in trouble with the rest of the characters.
Definitely.
continuity does not necessarily equal quality, though. He may have an idea for this, but so far, just based off the choices he made in Man of Steel, I'm not very optimistic.
Well, I want to point out that everybody is split two ways on whether Ben Affleck's going to be a good Batman. And the Batman in the commercial looks great. Both suits that we see look amazing. And this is obviously the Frank Miller story where Batman, when he's an aged old man, actually, takes on Superman and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it's it's interesting that we see the look of the Batman, we hear somebody talking, but we never actually see Ben Affleck's lips move. So I don't know if the voice that we're hearing is supposed to be Batman / Bruce Wayne, but I gotta say, Ben Affleck looks good as Bruce Wayne. He's got a little bit of the gray hair going on. He's looking good in the suit. The suit looks amazing. I'm actually a big fan of it.
Oh, I love it.
They've drawn from the comic book, so I'm really kind of stoked about that.
I actually am not a fan of the suit. It looks it looks a little Hellboy. It's like fake muscle on top of like layered scales or whatever. I'm not a big fan of it. I would have rather have seen something closer to like the suits you see in Arkham Knight and Arkham Origins, things like that. They're like based in real world and like something you could. It looks like something a soldier would wear, but dressed up to look like a bat.
Right, but at the same time, you have to remember, it's fucking Batman. He's gonna have the ability to spend the money, because God forbid he doesn't have any, to be able to pump up a suit, to be able to have access to material that the normal human being won't. And B, he's fighting against a god. For all intents and purposes, Superman is a god compared to humans. The only thing that really kills him is a rock, which, don't get me started on the fucking rock thing. I've always had an issue with that.
Well, it's not a rock. It's an irradiated piece of his planet.
No, I know what it is, but
Potato,
you see what I'm
potato.
saying. Yeah, you see what I'm saying, though. It's like he understands that there is only one way to actually physically kill Superman or to weaken him enough. So he's going to do everything he possibly can to be able to make sure that he can, survive a punch from the guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why he busts out the armor.
Exactly, and so that's why I think it's absolutely fantastic they did something like that.
No, the armor suit I have no problem with. It's the other suit, the one without like the armor parts and all of that. That one I don't like so much. Again, it's
I thought you meant the armor one. I apologize.
I was gonna say the other one is just based on the Frank Miller book. It's got the smaller ears. It's got the bigger frame. The Frank Miller version is supposed to be a huge guy in a spandex suit, and he's supposed to look like The Rock or The Big Show without the gut. So he's supposed to look huge, and that's what they're going with. And Ben Affleck's not a huge guy. He probably bulked up for this, but he's not like amazingly big.
Do they really think we won't notice the difference when he's not in costume from when he is in costume? I mean, it looks like the same kind of stuff they put on Ron Perlman when he was playing Hellboy. It's a fake physique on top of like a normal human physique, and I would rather see just a normal human.
I can understand that, but on the other side too, if Bruce Wayne is this huge, monstrous, professional wrestler looking guy walking around, and all of a sudden there's this guy who's this huge, monstrous, professional wrestler looking guy in a bat suit running around Gotham, somebody's going to put two and two together. It makes sense that he's going to disguise his frame, that he's going to wear lifts in his shoes to make him look taller, he's going to wear more padding to make himself look bigger, for the fear factor and the people that he goes up against, and B, just to kind of disguise who he is, because he still shows the lower part of his jaw, and it's Ben fucking Affleck, and Ben fucking Affleck has that stupid fucking chin, and anybody who sees him is going to be all like, oh, that's Ben Affleck, look at that chin.
Stupid fucking chin.
That'd be like making Bruce Campbell Batman.
Yeah. Very Jay Leno Batman.
Oh, I'd watch the shit out of a fucking Bruce Campbell Batman.
Bruce Campbell Batman, if they were to take that Frank Miller story that this is being derived from and do an actual movie based on that, like, Batman's been retired for years, he comes out of retirement, if they do that whole thing, yeah, Bruce Campbell would be the guy to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's old, but he's still pretty big, and he's still pretty limber for an old guy.
Batman sleepy.
Actually, to kind of digress back towards Superman here, and I'm be ready to call me crazy, but
You're
I'm
crazy.
still. Thank you. No, the movie that I liked that had Superman in it, that felt like a Superman movie should feel, is Superman Returns. The problem with that movie was in its script and its story, but everything else in that movie just seemed to me what a Superman should look like. I mean, it was on a grand scale. it involved him doing like epic things. There were the music, the lighting, the color the color choices, everything about that movie, done by Bryan Singer of all people, looked like a Superman movie should look like.
See, I liked the last Superman movie. What was it called again? What was the subtitle on that?
Man of Steel, yeah.
Man of Steel. So in the Man of Steel movie, to me, Man of Steel played like two separate movies. There was this epic origin story of Clark Kent trying to find himself and trying to figure out who he is and wrestling with this other identity that's inside him. He's human, but yet he's alien, and that was a good story. And I would have loved to have seen 90 minutes of that, and at the very end, him don the suit and make his presence known. And then the second half of this movie is this epic battle between him and Zod that felt so tacked on and felt like, okay, we wrote this script that's really, really cool, this origin story that nobody's ever seen before of all character development and this guy wrestling with himself and doing these superhuman things and this reporter tracking him down like he's, Bigfoot or whatever, and then all of a sudden, we have to have an action scene, so let's just, tack on this last 20 minutes. And I think that's in part why Superman, so out of character, snapped Zod's neck, because they got to a point where they're like, okay, this battle's going on way too long. It's only supposed to be the 20-minute climax. How do we end this? Well, neck snapped.
All right, there were a lot of things wrong with that film, but honestly, the whole General Zod thing came out of nowhere. I'll agree with you on that one.
They should have saved that for the sequel. Or
definitely.
They should have... They could have even have done that, like, they could have done the whole General Zod thing as a movie and then did this other part of it and made it like an hour or 40 minutes or whatever and put that on the DVD and have that the origin story. And that would have been cool to see. We could have enjoyed that separately.
My point being that the whole point of Superman, aside from being the last of his kind and on Earth, is that he's supposed to be like this symbolic, figure for hope and actual like progress and that you'll make it through the day at somehow. I don't know that anything in the Man of Steel inspired hope for me. It was just too dark a movie. It was just everything about it was either too dark, too rushed, too out of character. It didn't seem like Superman. There should be a certain lightness to Superman, and I didn't get any of that from Man of Steel.
The only thing that came close in Man of Steel was when he was hovering above the ground in front of the army. And he did his little speech to Lois Lane or whatever. He said, you guys hang back, I'll take care of this, kind of a thing. That was the only thing that really felt like Superman. Even the way Clark Kent's dad died didn't feel like Superman. It should have been the heart attack, because the heart attack is something Clark Kent, a.k.a. Superman, a.k.a. El Corral, or whatever his real name is Jor-El, thank you. El Jor-El could not...
Jor-El.
I'm sorry, I've been living in Tucson.
Fucking Guido, all right? We're going to get on him for that one again.
There are some things humans will go through that he cannot save them.
Right.
One of which is a heart attack. It's not like Superman's going to perform CPR on somebody, because he's just going to go right through their body.
In all honesty, I wasn't even listening, because after the whole Kal-El Jor-El thing, I tuned out again.
What I'm saying is that the way Superman's dad died in the hurricane or wherever it was done because Superman could have saved him. He could have ran around the long way. Nobody would have seen him. He's super fast, henceforth the name Superman. And he could have saved his dad, and nobody would have known any different. It should have been the heart attack. It should have been cancer. It could have been cancer. It could have been a really slow, agonizing death that really carried heavy onto Clark Kent's soul. To slowly watch his dad die and know he was powerless to do anything about it. And he could have even have left at that point. And then that would have been a great catalyst for him just walking the earth, trying to find himself and figure out who he is.
Or you don't kill the parents off. That's my suggestion. I think at this point it just feels forced that one of his parents has to die because his parents die in everything he's in. Yeah, why not keep him around? Why not actually have him around? They great supporting characters that help further develop the character of Superman. Because really Superman is three separate people. He's Superman when he's in the cape. He's the nerdy Clark Kent when he's at the Daily Planet trying to hide the fact that he's Superman. The only time he's really ever him is when he's at home with like the people that know that he's an alien. So why, as a plot device, I would keep those two characters alive just to kind of like flesh out who he really is.
You could. Well, I think that was the whole point of the Superman TV show Smallville. But as far as that goes, that is actually not a bad idea. And you could kill off the parent eventually, the dad eventually, but keep him around for a movie or two. Have the first movie where everything's fine, have the second movie where, he's slowly dying, and then, maybe at the end of that he dies, or at the beginning of the next one he dies, and now Superman's, a little different, he's a little darker, he's a little more broody.
Again, I still think that Bryan Singer's movie is a better representation of Superman, sans the story.
Yeah, I can see that.
What was the last? What was the name of the last X-Men that came out? Was that
Days of Future Past?
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually walked out of that theater.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Why is that?
It was, oh god, what was it? I think it was the third Flash Forward that got me. But my roommate and I, who, we went to film college and everything together, we saw the film. We got, I honestly can't remember where it was exactly, but it was one of the times they go back to them when Kitty is like touching what's his face's head, and more expositional dialogue was given at that point in time. She and I just looked at each other, didn't even say a word, got up and walked out. It was nothing but dialogue and just mindless action. I don't know why I don't know why I expected more out of it from that, but I did. I wanted something more out of that movie because it seemed like a great setup. It seemed like a great story that was going to be told.
Well, it's the X-Men for a lot of people is like Superman for Jamal here. A lot of people really love this franchise, and with what Brett Ratner did with X3 and the two Wolverine standalone movies, the franchise started going kind of down the crapper.
You just have an irrational hate for Brett Ratner.
I don't think it's irrational. So they turn to this new guy, and he does, First Class, and then you see that, and you're like, well, wait, is this supposed to be part of the continuation? Is this supposed to be the same story? Because there's a lot of inconsistencies here.
Right.
So then they do this one, Days of Future Past, which is an actual storyline in the comic books, and there is a lot of exposition here solely because it is such a weird little story, because it deals with time travel, because it deals with changing the timeline and all this other kind of stuff. They felt they needed to explain it a lot more. But it's like this new guy is starting to look at the franchise with kind of loving eyes, like Bryan Singer did with the first two X-Men. It's somebody who appreciated those comics, who knew enough about them to put together a good story, even though he didn't use any of the original X-Men characters, even though he brought the Wolverine right away and centered everything around the Wolverine, which really annoys me.
You realize it is Bryan Singer directing Days of Future Past, right?
I thought it was the other guy who did.
No. The other guy left and did Kingsman after Bryan Singer decided he wanted to be more active in the franchise again. He left, did the Kingsman, and Bryan Singer just said, "Hell, I'll direct it."
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that if you're wondering why it kind of seems like the first two, it's because it's Bryan Singer. He's back.
Okay. Well, I think he does a good job with the franchise. I think he is to the X-Men what hopefully the guy to the Superman movie is going to be. So I don't know if that made sense.
It didn't.
Okay,
Glad I wasn't the only one that was lost on that one.
I'm a little hungover today, so it's probably not coming out all that well.
What, you have too much champagne last night?
Champagne.
We went over to the meat rack.
That place is still open?
Yeah, we went to a dinner, had some wine, went to a singles night gathering, had some beers, and then went over to the meat rack.
Okay, I'm on a diet, so you need to go fuck yourself right now. Oh, Alex, I'm hungover because I got to drink alcohol and eat meat. Fuck you.
Did you just say eat meat? Are you not eating meat right now?
No.
You know, the meat rack is not a restaurant.
Does your vagina hurt? What?
Hey. When I've lost 100 pounds and you will be sorry.
I'm sorry already.
I've never had to say this phrase, but my computer was cutting out. I honestly didn't hear you on that one.
It's okay. We're just gonna move on to the next topic.
Oh, I want to hear your secret fat diet.
Wait, why is it a fat diet? Because I'm fat?
Well, thin people don't go on diets.
Yeah, I was like, if the shoe fits.
No. Thin
Well,
people
I
go
guess
on
it
diets
doesn't
all the
fit.
Oh no, the shoe fits, the pants don't.
So it's been great talking to you guys this week.
All right, dude. Have a
Okay,
good
okay,
night.
so-
All right, anyway. All right, gentlemen. Well, it sounds like we're about petering out right now. Let's say we start closing out.
I think that's a good idea. I was thinking that myself.
Yep.
What do we want to do next week? Do we want to watch another movie for next week and review it?
Hell yeah.
Only if it's something that I could actually sit through. None of this laser mission crap again.
You guys come up with something.
Okay. Big Man Japan.
Big Man Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god, no, that movie just looks so freaky.
I've actually seen this before, but I'll see if I can find it and watch it again. So thank you, Mario I, Silvis, for joining us, and also Jamal Alexander for joining us.
Join the makers each week as they discuss film, TV, and pop culture. To learn more about them, go to mof.ninja. This is Michael Caine saying goodbye.